Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, where I interview educators and entrepreneurs on leveling up. Each episode, I zoom in someone who's dope, and we just sit back and have a conversation on what it means to live your best life. Now, if this is your first time checking out the podcast, this is the Mobile University for Entrepreneurs, and I'm your host, Dr. Will. Now, today's guest is Stephanie Liu. She is big time, people. You just don't know. I'm trying to move up in this world, and I'm glad I can do this with guests like Stephanie. Has her own thing going on. We're going to talk about that. Thinkific people. And she came on my radar because of Dr. I. So, Dr. I is a fan of the podcast. So we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking about live streaming, live video, and get Stephanie's hot takes and gems on how you can use that to enhance your brand and grow your business. So for those who'll be listening on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and Spotify, will you please introduce yourself, Stephanie?
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Stephanie Liu, and I'm the host of Lights, Camera, Live, where we shine a spotlight on the best and brightest marketers in the world. You can catch me on Facebook the first and third Thursday of every month. Yeah, that's me. And I'm also an ad agency veteran, so any marketing-related questions that you have, this is the spot.
Awesome. And you should have seen her in the pictures going to the social media conference. Y'all look like y'all having a blast over there.
Oh, it was so much fun. It's kind of like summer camp social media with everyone. It's like the Disneyland, your favorite podcasters, your favorite live streamers, all in one spot. It's totally fun.
Wow. I may need to try to get over there. So as you mentioned, you are the host of Lights, Camera, Live, a live streaming show on Facebook. What got you turned on to live video, and what is your show about?
Yeah, so when I left the agency world, I wanted to stand out from the sea of sameness because I came out of the ad agency world as a director of social strategy. And I found that a lot of people claimed themselves to be, a director of social strategy, and yet they didn't have the same acumen or the education or experience that I had. So to really separate myself from the sea of sameness, I decided if I want to show clients that I'm confident in getting them the results that they needed, then I need to show up confident on camera and show them exactly what I do. Instead of telling them, show them and create content that's so shareable that other people start referring me instead of me having to pay like tons of marketing dollars to get that out there.
So I've watched yours, Dr. I's, Pia Silva, and others do live streams on Facebook. Are there any fundamental rules, guidelines that you swear by when starting growing a live video show? And how does someone who's interested in becoming a live streamer determine the format of their show?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say that fundamental rules that I would swear by is having a desired outcome. I mean, there's a lot of people when they see a new shiny object and they realize, hey, I'm just going to test it out. But then when you have so many eyeballs watching you in that moment, you have to be able to leverage that experience. And if you're sitting there and you're fumbling with the buttons and you're wasting people's time, they're going to associate you with that type of behavior that they don't want to be involved with. So they might just go ahead and block you from the newsfeed, right? So if you have an idea of what it is exactly that you want to talk about and what it is that you want to deliver and educate your viewers, then that's going to help you start off on the right foot. And then as far as like who's interested in terms of learning how to live stream, I mean, you could always head over to the site, lightscameralive.com. There's a lot of basic stuff there that I go over. Things like how to structure your show, right? Like I always talk about the format system that was developed by Dr. Bernice McCarthy back in the 1970s, where she realized most people learn by asking questions. So they'll either ask, why is this important to me? What can this do for me? How do you do it? And what if I do something different? So applying that why, what, how, and what if formula into your live stream can definitely help you captivate and mesmerize your audience to tune in the entire time. Because if you don't cover any of that stuff, they just might like, I don't know what the show's about. She hasn't given me this setup. Should I really invest my time? They might just, hop out of there.
So there's all sorts of hosting platforms, Facebook, Google Hangouts, LinkedIn live video is now, which is interesting because you have, oh my gosh, I can't believe the fried chicken lady name is not, it's going from my mind. Now, she's been on my podcast as well. But, oh my gosh, help me out. You know who I'm talking about.
No, I don't. The only
Oh my
fried chicken I'm thinking right now is Popeye's chicken right now.
Oh my gosh, when she talks about fried chicken, oh my gosh, she is awesome.
Look it up.
She's awesome. It's awesome. When she talks about LinkedIn live video, people, it's gonna haunt me. And then Goldie, Goldie Chan, and they're doing all of these things, and you're doing on Facebook. Why does live video work? And what are some of the tricks that you've learned?
Well, I mean, okay, so this is really cool because this really ties into what I'm going to be talking about over at the Midwest Digital Marketing Conference. And there's a lot of psychology dynamics that play into live video, right? Like the fact that as human beings, we are wired to have a sense of belongingness. We want to feel like we are a part of community. We're born into it. We're born into it, into our families, our neighborhoods, our schools, our colleges, our churches, our organizations. And when you could take that sense of community and build it online, then that's what people are going to gravitate towards. And so live video helps you build that, because if you have some type of content series and you see other people show up and watching with you, it becomes this whole entire experience. And when you have that sense of belongingness, you get all of these happy, brain chemicals that come out and just like shower you. And it's things like your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, your endorphins, all of these things you experience when you're watching a live video that is structured to really provide value for your audience. And if you know how to leverage that, if you know how to pull on those levers, then that's how you could really succeed in this new endeavor.
Wow. It's string union. That's what it is.
String union?
Yes. Oh man. She loves the fried chicken. And so she says every time she travels, she must get fried chicken where she is. Which I like chicken, but I don't know if I went to Australia, would I be like, yo, what kind of fried chicken you got over here?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there are plenty of places that I go to and I'm a little like suspect, like I like guacamole and whatnot, but you take me to Orlando and I'm like, yeah, but I'm from San Diego and the border is just like 3 exits from where I live. I don't know about that. And this one time I was in New York and I asked for salsa, but the waiter thought I said Alka-Seltzer. So he gave me a glass of seltzer. And I was like, this is not salsa. It's like, where am I? This is not San Diego. What am I doing here? Yeah. Same thing. I'm like, where do you want me to speak? What's in Ohio? I don't know.
Having too much fun on here today, people. As a medium, right, or a means for creating content, I'm just thinking about the different players in the game. How do you, and I want to throw this out there to you, how do you figure out your own secret sauce? Because you have your rules of, okay, this is your format, you do this, you do this, that. But if I'm starting out and I'm watching you and I'm like, oh, that Stephanie is nice, she's real dope. And you look at someone else, and then when you try to get there, how do you not mimic Stephanie, right? How do you understand your own secret sauce to where your show is completely you? You own everything about yourself.
Okay. So when I was growing up, my dad liked to watch a lot of comedy. And so I like to write down things that capture my attention and really, really just kind of like make me laugh. And I'm like, why is it that I like that? Right. And I noticed that a lot of the comedians that I like, even like Kevin Hart, there's a lot of storytelling involved and there's a lot of high emotional points that he takes you on that journey. And those are things that I'm like, why did that work? How can I do that? So you could model after the greats. You could model after your Jay Leno's and your Jimmy Kimmels and whatnot. But you could kind of see the structure. So you can outline what the structure is going to be and then make it your own. So that way it feels authentic and it doesn't feel like you're copying it, but there's a format that you're going to follow, right? Like even Seinfeld has his own structure that he has whenever he's telling jokes, right? It's always finding like the common denominator that we see in life, but then flipping it on its head and like, well, why is it that we do that, right? There's a lot of things that just kind of make you laugh. And for my show in general, I just found that a lot of the stuff, what I do in my show is rooted in psychology because that's what I studied in school. I was always interested in human behavior and why people think and act the way that they do. And when I understood, like people only memorize 7, plus or minus 2 things, right? So when you do a show, you don't want to overload them with too much information. You want to give them as much as they could possibly remember. You want to give them sound bites, and just jotting that along the way is kind of like what helped me in terms of developing the show. And as much as I want to call it a secret sauce, I'm just like, hey, I'll share that with you. You want some? Like, it's like, here's how I do it, but make it your own.
Mm. So I want to ask you about the tech piece, right? Because there are a lot of people who they don't start their blog, they don't start their vlog, they don't start live video shows because the tech scares them.
Yeah.
And they feel overwhelmed and want no part of it. How does someone get started but not get caught up in all of the tech?
To really take advantage of live video, it's understanding again the experience that you want to deliver. And so knowing what your desired outcome is going to be, knowing what your storytelling arc is going to be. Once you have that nailed down in terms of like what it is exactly that you want to talk about, that's the first part, right? And then comes the tech. When you start thinking about your show, you don't just, you can just pick up your phone and start live streaming and whatnot. But what I usually teach my students is really, what's the look and the feel that you want for your show, right? Do you want to have graphics? Do you want to do intros, outros? Do you want to bring other super smart people onto your show? That way you could leverage their audiences too. And do you want a screencast? And I have them think about that before they even go into the tech. Because if you jump into the tech, you're just going to be on the whose grass is greener comparison 24/7. You're like, oh, well, this one does that and that one does this. But if you have an idea of what it is exactly, like what your vision is, then you can match it up to the right platform that makes sense for you. Because you could have all the bells and whistles in your live stream, but if you fail in delivering that content, if you fail in terms of providing value for your audience, your show's not going to do well, even if you spent like $1,000 on the best videographer to make your intro, right? Because as soon as that intro is done, boom, how are you going to keep them?
People, this show shouldn't be free. She's dropping goodies today. So you mentioned earlier how you worked in corporate America. What's the story behind you becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Now go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because I worked in the ad agency world for like a good decade and a half. Mm-hmm. And it was something where I was used to working 50 plus hours a week. I was used to working on weekends that it never felt like it was optional. I was used to working on Black Fridays to launch campaigns and stuff. And that was just kind of like the norm for both me and my husband at the time, because we both worked in the agency world. And it wasn't until my sister, who was like 30 at the time, and she had just left the hospital after having like her 4th daughter, right? And of course, you want to go visit your sister in the hospital and congratulate her and whatnot. But during that time, I didn't really see my family as much. And so what had happened, Dr. Will, was that 2 weeks after she gave birth, I got a phone call at my desk saying, hey, your sister just collapsed. She had a heart attack. And that's when I realized, that's when I realized, like, what am I really doing? Why am I spending so much time in this office versus spending it with the people that I love? And that's the part when I started to have this mindset of, instead of making the people in my life secondary, I want to have a flexible schedule that allows me to pick and choose who I work with, when I work, and make my family a priority. And so that kind of stuck with me until I was able to go ahead and launch my own business. And I would say when I was pregnant with my daughter back in 2015, that like further, ramped up my speed of like, let's get this started, right? Because now it's like, now I'm bringing another human being into the life, bring another human being into the world. And do I want to be that mom where I don't really see her as much? Maybe I'm just dropping off her at daycare, and mad respect for the people that have to do that because they have to pay the bills and whatnot. But for me, I personally would just like, well, what can I do? Because I want to be a problem solver, right? Like if I could create my own future, then what can I do to set up that foundation? Because if I could do this for clients, right? If I could do this for the Adobes, the Qualcomms, the Nike, Sephora's, and Cliniques, and help them build their brand online, I sure as hell can do that for myself, right? And so just taking what it is exactly that I do for them, because you and I just talked about this, success leads clues. And so if you pick up the clues of what you did for them and you apply it to your own business, then it's going to work. And it worked. And I'm still doing it. And I've had my own business now for the last 3 years, and it's pretty fulfilling. It's amazing to have that.
Wow. Wow. Okay. You have this course that shares the name of your show, Lights, Camera, Live. What is your course about, and what is the value for your clients?
Yeah. Well, Lights Camera Live is about transforming your live show from boring to badass, right? It's about not just pushing the button, it's about creating a show that people sit on the edge of their seats and they cannot wait for you to turn on the camera because they know that they're going to learn something new from you, right? It's how to build your brand and your bottom line with live video. And that's really what the course is about. And it's the value that it offers is that it's not just something that you log into and that's the only interaction that you have with me. No, in fact, the way I describe it to most people is that it's group coaching with a course. So that means, Dr. Well, that if you wanted to launch your own Facebook Live show, you're going to go ahead and go through the program in terms of how do we get your camera confidence in check, right? How do we start captivating your content, your audience by creating what your content schedule is going to be, what your content strategy is. And then from there, once we have a vision of what your show's going to look like, start testing out the different platforms. And that's where, if you start fumbling with the tech, you just pretty much hop on a group coaching call and then we'll get you through that. So instead of struggling with the tech, you're going to slay the tech by the time that you're done with the actual program itself. And what's nice about it is that when you're starting your own show, it's not like you're going to go live to a crowd of crickets, because you'll have a built-in audience. You'll have your other classmates cheering you on. You'll have me actually like hopping on and like giving you so many hearts and everything and introducing you to my audience because you're doing it the Lights, Camera, Live way. And so I think that's what kind of separates it from the other, quote unquote courses that are out there. It's group coaching, and it's a lot of trying to help people get over that mindset of, I got to be perfect all the time. And it's like, nobody likes perfect people. Don't be that person. Just be you, be authentic, and, deliver on that value. Don't waste people's time trying to figure out stuff on air, and then roll with it.
Nice. I went to your website, and it's awesome, by the way. You have something that I've never in my life read before, which was brands should act like media companies. I'm like, what is that? So first I want to ask you, what is someone's brand DNA made of? And why should a brand operate like a media company?
Yeah. So as far as someone's personal brand DNA and what's that made out of, the best way I could describe that is it's what you stand for. It's what you stand for. It's what you don't stand for, and it's who you serve. So there are values that you have that are going to touch all aspects of your life, whether it's business or it's personal. And people at the end of the day really want to do business with other people. You could have the fanciest logo, all that you want, but if you don't stand for something, why should people listen to you? If you're going to just regurgitate what other people are saying, why should they listen to you? I mean, there's a certain reason why people gravitate towards Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Because he delivers content in a certain way. Like he could probably be saying the same thing that Tony Robbins is saying or that Oprah Winfrey is saying, but he delivers it in his own authentic way that resonates with his specific audience. And I think that's what really represents what your brand DNA is going to be like, because other people could be talking about live video. In fact, other people do talk about live video, but most people that watch Lights Camera Live watch it because I'm real and authentic in the way that I share like my expressions and like why I love certain things or why things just irk the heck out of me, right? And not only that though, but there's not a lot of live streamers that look and sound like me. Let's be honest, right? You know, Goldie Chen is always asking me like, hey, do you know of like any other live streamers that are people of color? And I'm like, I only know a handful, right? And so that's where she and I are kind of like on this mission of like, we need to get people out there live streaming because people want to hear you in your own voice. They want to hear your own journey. Yeah, they could hear like, you know, a nice inspirational quote, but you have a certain story that you have to share. And I think that goes into the brand DNA piece of it too.
Awesome. Now, I know this person, Valerie Lewis. She created called Pass the Scope. She is a Black lady in Atlanta. And it is every Thursday, she has this theme, and a bunch of educators sign up to do a live stream about that topic.
I love it.
Yes. So
Pass the Scope. Is she a Perry girl? Is she a part of the Joanne Fam Perry girl community?
I don't think she is.
Okay.
But I will make an introduction on Twitter to you so you can get connected with her. But she is one of the people of color I know doing live stream that's actually built a community around the work she's doing.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that.
Awesome. Making connections, people.
Yeah. And then, okay, so then the other question that you had was, you know, why should a brand act like a media company?
Yes.
Okay, so, and that's such a good question. I love that. You know, most traditional companies, especially with their advertising, they'll rely on like public relations, and you have to go to your PR person to make the media release that then goes out to the desk, the news desk and whatnot, yada, yada. And you have to like play this game in order to get that done. But if you're creating your own content that fulfills a certain purpose and it helps people out, you have all of these different social media platforms to get that stuff out there. So instead of relying on the newscasters to push that out for you, or the magazines and all that stuff, you can start putting something up on Facebook or on YouTube, put a couple of ad dollars behind it, get it in front of the right people for a fraction of the cost. So when you are your own media company and you're hopping in other people's podcasts like this, you are helping other people find you. You're just kind of like creating these digital breadcrumbs where they can find you and they can nibble on it. But if they really want to sink into what it is exactly that you're doing, that's when they go to your website, right? That's when they go into your blog. That's when they're going to binge watch your content. You know, it's nice to have like a 8-minute news segment, right, about your fundraiser. Yeah. But what if I could go to your website, or what if I could go to your YouTube channel and binge watch videos of all the lives that you've actually transformed? That's going to get me in as a donor, right? That's going to help me open up my mind and open up my wallets more than it is than the newscast. And that's just speaking from my own perspective, because the news is going to feed me something else different as soon as your segment is done, right? Because they're going to probably try to give me some shock or some fear to get me to stay tuned. And then what I just watched in terms of like your interview gets pushed aside. But if you create your own content, become your own media company, get people to find you across social, I think that's really going to help you build your brand and your bottom line.
Nice. This is good. It's good.
This, you know what I love about podcasts is that it's very different from live video, because I feel like with live video, I always have to keep an eye on my guest and the comments, and it's a lot of like, you know, you're juggling a lot of things. And I love the podcast aspect of it because you could really just kind of pause and think about your answers without having to like, oh, I need to like keep eye contact with the camera.
I have done a couple of live videos,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, it's kind of like, I'm always thinking like I'm just speaking into the abyss.
The abyss.
Like, who's out there?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why with the podcast, I like the interview format so that I can actually, speak to people and learn myself, but also hopefully, provide value to those entrepreneurs who listen to my podcast and are able to grow their businesses.
Yeah. And well, and a fundamental rule in terms of like live video is you got to promote your show before it even starts, right? Because most people they'll just go live and hope that the Facebook notifications or that the Facebook algorithm is going to build an audience for them. And there's really a lot that goes into pre-promoting your show. Like I said, you want to get people buzzing about it before you even go live. And so you've probably been hit by RoboStuff, the messenger bots and the Facebook events. Like you've seen it. Like I treat it as book out your time. This Thursday at this time, this is what we're talking about. And I go into the whole like why, what, how, and what if formula. I'm not just like, hey, there's this thing, ... then live video. No, I respect your time and I know that I'm going to deliver on it. So I try to give my audience as much as possible.
So you have these people and you like to use the term entrepreneur, but when people are trying to get into the game, they know, wow, whether it's blended learning, whether it's, looking at data for instruction or technology implications in the classroom, they know that they have a set of skills that they rock with. They understand, hey, I'm being successful in the classroom doing this. People are asking me to do X, Y, and Z. But when you are saying, hey, you got to niche it down. When as educators, we have to do like it all.
Yeah.
How does someone niche down to figure out what they're actually in business in?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I remember having this exact conversation in one of these Facebook groups that I was in. There was this gal, she was saying, hey, what do you guys think? I have this potential client and I was offering to post on their social media channels, do their analytics and their Facebook ads. And I'm thinking maybe charging $700 a month. What do you guys think about that? And I was like, I was like, well, you could only charge $700 for that, or you could do one thing and still charge $700 for that. And so what I think is important about niching down is being a master of your own craft and not trying to be a jack of all trades. Because if you are freaking badass at one freaking thing and you are the go-to person for that one thing, people will pay you for what you're worth. It's nice to know SEO and PPC, like to have the fundamentals, but there's got to be something that brings you so much joy that it doesn't even feel like work. And people know that you're so badass at it that they just open up their wallets because they're like, you know what? Take my money, show me how you do it, and let's run with it. So when I tell people, like niche down, like what exactly that you want to do, I usually test out an audience. And I'm like, hey, if I'm going to launch a course, what exactly are you interested in, right? Because I ask people, do you want me to teach you how to use Ecamm or BeLive and da-da-da? And they're like, no, Steph, I want you to help me be confident on camera. And that's a whole different issue, right? Because there are so many other live streamers out there that want to talk to you about like mixers and soundboards and mics and gear. And really my audience is just like, how do I just get myself pumped up to even just show up on camera stuff? And how do I make that feeling, that confidence just translate to all other aspects of my life? And I'm like, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. And so I think niching down is definitely something that can help you out in your business, and it'll just free up your time.
All right. I've had a great time, Stephanie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before we go, how should folks be using social media, right? So you have all these different platforms that have different audiences, and they respond to different things. And I know sometimes people are like, well, I did this thing, so I'm going to post it here, 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 and here. I'm going to write this message here, here, and here. But the audience, right? Is the LinkedIn audience is different from the Facebook audience, different from the Twitter audience. Should people say, wow, I'm gonna pick this one platform that I'm gonna kill at and make sure that I'm making content for that platform? Should they sprinkle a little bit everywhere?
Yeah.
How should
Yeah.
they be using it, and how can people work with you?
Well, okay, so the best way that I like to describe social media and all the different platforms is like every single platform is like its own country. There are certain etiquettes that you're allowed to do, and there are certain expectations that people have. Like, for example, if you were to create a video on Instagram, they're fine with it just like you holding up your phone. But if it's the YouTube audience, they are looking for jump cuts, overlays. They're there to solve a problem because they have searched a specific keyword and you popped up, right? So I think understanding what the audiences do on each one of the platforms, then that'll be helpful. And then also understanding where majority of your audience resides on, right? And how's that going to impact your business? Because I could hang out on Instagram because I know what people do on Instagram, and people will slide into my DMs and like laugh at my jokes and whatnot. But if I truly, truly want to work with the educators or the C-level executives and make those B2B connections, then that's where I'm going to make content specifically for LinkedIn. But what I will tell you is that what resonates across all platforms is always going to be storytelling. It's always going to be the hero's journey. And whenever you start something off with like, here's a problem, here's how I solved it, here's how you could do it too, that formula will always work out. So I think that, keep that in mind whenever you're trying to develop content. And as far as like how people can work with me, I mean, the best way to reach out to me is the same way that Dr. Will did, which is go on to Facebook and you send me a message on my business page and I will respond. Because the funny thing about Facebook business pages is that they keep track of how many messages you respond to. And so I actually can't ignore messages on there because then I will get dinged. And that doesn't mean spam me, because there are some spammers on there. You could block certain people, but I tend to find that with Facebook Messenger, I respond to things a lot faster.
Well, I thank you for not ignoring mine and for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for the invite, and I appreciate it. I know that like sometimes people are like, "Hey, I messaged her. It's taking her a while." If you take a look at my stories, I'm probably on a plane preparing for a talk or something, but you're there. You're in my brain. You've got like a Post-it note with your name on it. It's there.
Awesome. Thank you again, Stephanie, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Hey, people, you know how I do this. This episode is going up on Simplecast, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. I need you to follow, subscribe, give me some stars, leave me some comments, do something, share it, because your boy's trying to get Oprah on the show. And I want her to know that I'm doing big things around here. Again, I would like to thank my guest, Stephanie Liu, for dropping all these dope gems. Thank you for checking out the Mobile University for Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Dr. Will. As always, invest in you. EDU. Peace.